I am making a deck profile for my branded deck, as this is the version of it I like the most. And was able to work bystials into the deck, which I think actually helps it a lot. And it makes me laugh just because I did not realize just how strong card the Fallen Virtuous was going to be. So starting off with the monsters, I play 3 copies of Despia and Tragedy. I know most branded decks only play 1, but mine is a bit more Despia focused, so I figured why not have 3 copies of it. But Tragedy has 2 effects. You can only use one of the 2 effects per turn, which is if it's sent to the graveyard or banished by a card effect, then you can add a Despia monster from your deck to your hand except for another copy of Tragedy. And then if Tragedy is in the graveyard, you can banish it to return a branded spell or trap from your graveyard to your hand. And you can only use one of those 2 effects per turn. And if you use one, you can't use the other. Next, I play 2 copies of Tri-Brigade Mercarrier. Mercarrier has the effect that if your opponent activates a monster effect while you have a fusion monster that mentions Fallen of Albaz as material, you can discard this card from your hand to negate that monster effect and destroy it. Or I believe it's a negate and destroy. It could just be a negate that effect. Let's see. No, it doesn't negate and destroy, it just negates. Honestly, it's mainly in here just to be able to use what was it? Renbrum, I think it was. Yeah. But then, Mercarrier also has a second effect where if it is banished, then you can add a Fallen of Albaz or a monster that mentions it from your deck to your hand. Speaking of, I play 2 copies of Guiding Quem the Virtuous. Quem has the effect that on summon... Oh, yeah, it's also always treated as a Despia and a Dogmatica monster. Or I believe it's always that. Dogmatica and Despia. But it has the effect on summon. You can send a Fallen of Albaz from your deck to the graveyard. And then, if a monster leaves the extra deck, then you can activate Quem's effect to summon a Fallen of Albaz from your graveyard. Next, I play 3 copies of Blazing Cartesia the Virtuous. Blazing Cartesia has the effect that if Fallen of Albaz is in your graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand. And then, once per turn, I believe it's a main phase quick effect, you can activate its effect to fusion summon a level 8 or higher fusion monster. And then during the end phase, if Cartesia's in your graveyard, because if it's in your graveyard and a fusion monster was sent there that turn, you can use Cartesia's effect to return it to your hand. Next, I play 3 copies of Fallen of Albaz. Fallen of Albaz has the effect where when it's summoned, you can discard a card to fuse it with monsters your opponent controls for fusion summon. And that's pretty much it. Next, I play 3 copies of Albur, the Jester Despia. Albur has 2 effects. Like Tragedy, you can only use one of the 2 effects per turn. Where if it's summoned, you can add a branded spell or trap from your deck to your hand. And then if it's in the graveyard and your opponent gets rid of your fusion monster, or if a fusion monster leaves the field because of an opponent's card, then you can activate Albur's effect, target one monster your opponent controls, summon Albur, and then negate that targeted monster's effects till the end of the turn. Again, you can only use one of those 2 effects per turn. Next, I play 1 copy of Ito, the Supreme Magical Force. Ito is in this deck because you're supposed to give it to your opponent with Albion, the Sanctifier Dragon. But while your opponent has Ito, they're not allowed to summon or set any other monsters. So it just prevents them from being able to summon things, and then... I remember one time I made one of my opponents rage quit with this deck because I gave them an Ito, and then proceeded to make... gave them Ito in the same turn I made 3 Masquerade the Blazing Dragon. And then during their standby phase, I proceeded to make a Light and Darkness Dragon Lord. So not only could they not summon anything, but the first 3 cards they play, they have to pay 1,800 life points per card, and they would be negated. Next, I play 3 copies. 1 Druid Worm, 1 Magnuma, and 1 Baldrake. I was thinking 3 because of the next one. All of the level 6 bestials share the effect that you can target a light or dark monster in either graveyard, banish it, and if you do, special summon this card. This effect is a quick effect while your opponent controls a monster. And then after that, they'll have their own unique effects. Where if Druid Swarm leaves the field, you can target a special summon monster your opponent controls, send it to the graveyard. Magma can activate its effect on summon, so that at the end of the turn you can add a dragon from your deck to your hand. And then Baldrake has the effect that if your opponent summons a, Fusion, Synchro, Xyz, Link, or Ritual, yep, then you can target one of those special summon monsters, tribute one other light or dark monster you control, to then be able to negate that monster's summon. Let's see, I believe it does only do that to one. You target one of the special summon monsters. Okay, no, negate the summon, you banish it. Usually Baldrake gets dealt with before I can use it, so that's why it's not memorized. And then next I play 3 copies of Bystial Serenir. Serenir has the same effects as the other 3, and then also has the effect that if it leaves the field, or is it when it's sent to grave? I don't remember which one. Let's see, where is it? Okay, if it's sent to the graveyard, then you can send a branded spell or trap from your bestial or branded card from your deck to the graveyard. Next, I play 1 copy of Ad Libitum of Despia. Ad Libitum has the effect that if it's sent to the graveyard or banished as fusion material, you can target one other Despia or level 8 or higher fusion monster that's banished or in your graveyard, special summon that target. Then I play 1 copy of Albion the Shrouded Dragon. Albion has the effect where its name becomes Fallen of Albaz while it's on the field or in the graveyard. And then it also has the effect that you can send a Fallen of Albaz or a branded spell trap from your hand or deck to the graveyard. Then apply the following effect based on where you sent it from. If it was sent from hand, you summon this card. If it was sent from the deck, then you can place a card at the bottom of the deck. Then if you place this card from your hand, you can draw a card. Next, I play 3 copies of Bystial Lubellion. The Bystial Lubellion has the effect where you can discard it from your hand to be able to add a level 6 or lower Bystial from your deck to your hand. And then you contribute a level, 5 or higher, it's either 5 or 6 or higher Dark Dragon. Tribute a level 6 or higher Dark Dragon monster, you can special summon this card from your hand or graveyard. And then once per turn, the Bystial Lubellion will let you take a continuous branded spell or trap from your deck and place it face up in your spell and trap zone. You can only use each effect of the Bystial Lubellion once per turn. And then lastly, for monsters, I play 1 copy of Dramaturge of Despia. Dramaturge has the effect that if it's sent to the graveyard or banished as fusion material, then you can special summon this card. And then when a monster leaves the extra deck, you can activate Dramaturge's effect as a quick effect to target 1 face-up monster on the field and negates effects to the end of the turn. For these spells, I play 1 copy of Foolish Burial. This just lets you send a monster from your deck to the graveyard, which ordinarily would either be Albion or Despian Tragedy. Next, I play 1 copy of Branded Lost. Branded Lost has the effect that your fusion cards and the effects, or your cards and effects that include the effect of fusion summon cannot be negated. And your opponent cannot activate cards or effects when you fusion summon a monster, which means if your monster you summon has an effect on summon, your opponent can't activate cards in response. And then, once per turn, if you fusion summon a monster, Branded Lost will let you add a Fallen of Alabaz or a monster that mentions it from your deck to your hand. Which ordinarily this is what Lubellion will place face up. If you don't have it, or if you didn't open it, or you didn't search it with Aliber. Next, I play 1 copy of Despia, Theater of the Branded. This is just a once per turn polymerization. That also makes so your opponent destroys a non-fusion fairy monster. Then you can special summon a level 8 or higher fusion monster from your graveyard. Once per turn. Then I play one copy of Branded Regained. Branded Regained has the effect of a light or dark monster is banished. You can target one of those banished cards, put it at the bottom of the owner's deck, and then you get to draw one card. And then when your opponent normal or special summons a monster once per turn, you can special summon a bestial monster from your hand or graveyard. Next, I play one copy of Chaos Space. This card just lets you send a light or dark monster from your hand to the graveyard to then add the opposite attribute that cannot be normal summoned or set from your deck to your hand. Which, if I remember correctly, this is in here for the Bestial Lubellion. Yeah, because the Bestial Lubellion cannot be normal summoned or set. So you discard Dark with Chaos Space to add Lubellion. Which, if I remember correctly, most of the deck is Dark, so that shouldn't be an issue. And then Chaos Space also has the graveyard effect of being able to banish it to take one of your monsters that is banished that cannot be normal summoned or set, return it, or put it at the bottom of the deck, and you get to draw one card. Or I believe that's the bottom. It's either put it at the bottom or shuffle it into the deck. Okay, place it on the bottom of the deck and draw a card. You can only use each effect at Chaos Space once per turn. I do know one thing though, and that is if Chaos Space ever goes to 3, I will be playing my Chaos deck a lot more. And then next, I play one copy of Harpy's Feather Duster, just because I usually lose the die roll, so having something to deal with back row isn't that bad a thing. As Harpy's Feather Duster lets you destroy all spells and traps your opponent controls. And then lastly, for the one-of spells, I play one copy of Gold Sarcophagus. Gold Sarcophagus lets you banish a monster from your deck, and then during your second standby phase after its activation, that banished monster returns to your hand. Which, again, this is ordinarily going to be Despia and Tragedy. The cards I'll usually do with this are either Tragedy or Mercarier if I really need something like Cartesia or Quem. For 2-of spells, I play 2 copies of Branded in Red. Branded in Red will let you target a Fallen Valabaz or Despia in your graveyard, return to your hand, and then you have the option to banish from hand or field to fusion summon a level 8 or higher fusion monster. Next, I play 2 copies of Branded Fusion. Branded Fusion lets you fusion summon a fusion monster from your extra deck that uses Fallen Valabaz as material by using monsters from your hand, field, or deck as material. I believe it lets you use field. Let's see, using 2 monsters from your hand. Yeah, hand, deck, or field. The only downside of this card is it locks you into fusions for the rest of the turn, but considering how this deck works, that's not an issue. Although I was thinking about putting a 2 to the Branded and Bestial Despater in this deck, but a 2 would just be used so that you can summon Despater on your opponent's turn. Next, I play 3 copies of Allure of Darkness. Allure of Darkness lets you draw 2 cards and banish a dark monster from your hand, but if you don't have a dark monster in your hand to banish, then your entire hand will go to the graveyard. Next, I play 3 copies of Super Polymerization. This lets you discard a card to summon a monster using monsters from both sides of the either side of the field as fusion materials, and then neither player can activate cards or effects in response to this card's activation. So the only thing that can really interact with polymerization are cards that do not activate, that do things when it would resolve. An example being Cerulean Skyfire, which is when your opponent's spell card would resolve, you can switch Hamon, Lord of Striking Thunder from attack mode to defense mode to negate that spell card's effect. It's not an activated effect, so it can technically negate Super Polymerization. Next is probably one of the most broken cards I've read, especially after seeing how it works. That's 3 copies of the Fallen and the Virtuous. It's always treated as a Branded and a Dogmatica spell, or Branded and Dogmatica card. It has 2 effects, where you can send a monster that mentions Fallen Valabaz from your extra deck to the graveyard, target 1 card in the field, and destroy it. And its other effect is if you have an Ecclesia in your graveyard, this deck doesn't use Ecclesia, so that doesn't really matter. But if you do have an Ecclesia, then it's a quick play monster reborn. But the thing I think is done with this is that you can activate the Fallen and the Virtuous, sending Albion to the grave, destroy a card your opponent controls, and then during the end phase, Albion will let you set another Fallen and the Virtuous. Next, I play 3 copies of Fusion Deployment. Fusion Deployment will let you reveal a fusion monster from your extra deck, which with this deck, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be Grangwinol the Dusk Dragon, to then special summon a monster that's specifically mentioned on that revealed fusion monster. So when it's Grangwinol, it's summoning Blazing Cartesia the Virtuous. However, you can also use it revealing any of the Albaz fusion monsters to summon Fawn of Albaz from the deck. Lastly, for the spells, I play 3 copies of Branded Opening. Branded Opening has the effect that you can discard a card to then be able to add special summon a Despia. Let's see, I can't remember if it's just Despia or... it lets you take a Despia monster from your deck and either add to your hand or special summon it in defense position, and then it also has the graveyard effect that if your fusion monsters will be destroyed by a card effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead. You can only use each effect of Branded Opening once per turn. So the effect this card has that lets you discard a card is not a cost. So if you activate this, your opponent ashes, you do not have to discard a card. And that's grave effect does not actually activate, so I do like that part of it. Next, I play 1 copy of Branded Beast. Branded Beast has the effect that you can only use its effects while you control a dragon monster, which is during the end phase, you can take a branded continuous spell or trap from your graveyard and place it face up in your spell and trap zone. And then, at any point, you can use this effect once per turn, tribute a dragon monster you control, target 1 card your opponent controls, and destroy it. Next, I play 1 copy of Branded Retribution. Branded Retribution is only in here for its graveyard effect, which is you can banish it to return a branded a branded spell or trap from your graveyard to your hand. Which ordinarily this is being sent to the graveyard off of Albion, the Shrouded Dragon. And then lastly for the traps, I play 3 copies of Branded Banishment. I'm only playing 3 copies of Branded Banishment because this deck is very Despia focused. Not necessarily focused, but Despia heavy, so this will let you target a Despia monster or level 8 or higher fusion monster in your graveyard, special summon it, and then you can banish from either side of the field to fusion summon a monster. So I just like this card because it is a pseudo super polymerization. And then I believe it also has the restriction that you can only activate 1 Branded Banishment per turn. And that is it for the main deck. The main deck is currently 60 cards. I'll probably end up taking out Chaos Space for 2 of the Branded if I want to play Despater in this deck. As this deck, Despater can be made using Blazing Cartesia and any of the level 6 Bestials. For the extra deck, I play 2 copies of Albion the Branded Dragon. Albion the Branded Dragon has the effect that when this card's fusion summoned, you can banish from your hand, field, or graveyard in order to summon a level 8 or higher fusion monster. And then during the end phase, the Albion is sent to the graveyard. You can activate Albion's effect to either add to your hand or set a branded spell or trap. Next, I play 2 copies of Masquerade the Blazing Dragon. I really want to play a 3rd copy just because Masquerade is just one of my favorite monsters with the Despia. Where Masquerade has the effect that while this fusion summoned card is on the field, I had to start over because I got a phone call. Don't do it. Masquerade has the effect that while this fusion summon card's on the field, your opponent has to pay 600 life points to activate cards and effects. And for some reason, Konami has decided that effect stacks. And if there's a pause, I apologize because I got a phone call and I thought the phone call canceled the recording. But Masquerade also has the graveyard effect that if this card's in your graveyard, your opponent controls a Fusion, Synchro, or Xyz monster, or Fusion, Synchro, Xyz, or Link, you can special summon this card from your graveyard, but banish it when it leaves the field. Next, I play 1 copy of Rinbrum the Striking Dragon. Rinbrum has the effect that when I believe it's when it's summoned. Okay, no, when a fusion synchro exceeds only monster's effect is activated, then as quick effect, you can negate that effect, then return a monster on the field to the hand. Then during your opponent's turn, while this card is in your graveyard, you can, as a quick effect, target a Fallen of Alabaz in your graveyard, special summon either that monster or this card, and banish the other. You can only use each effect of Rimbrum once per turn. Next, I play one copy of Titaniclad, the Ash Dragon. Titaniclad is also in here just because of its graveyard effect, which is during the end phase of this card sent to the graveyard, you can special summon a Dogmatica or Fallen of Alabaz monster from your deck. Which ordinarily this will be used to summon Guiding Quim, but if you do summon it, then it gains attack equal to the combined original levels of the monsters used for its fusion summon times 100. Then, after this card's fusion summon, for the rest of this turn, it's unaffected by activated effects of any other monsters special summoned from the extra deck and then, usually if this is being summoned, it's just because you need something really big. Which, usually when I make it, it's using a level 4 and level 12, so it gains, or level 12, level 8, so it gains 1200 attack points, making it 37, and it's unaffected by other cards. Next, I play one copy of Despia and Queritus. Queritus has two effects. The first one is, during the main phase quick effect, you can activate its effect to change the attack points of all monsters on the field to 0, except for level 8 or higher fusion monsters. And then if Queritus leaves the field because of an opponent's card, then you can special summon a Despia monster from your deck. I believe it has to be Despia. I don't believe it can be Fallen of Alabaz either. Okay, no, it's Fallen of Alabaz or a Despia monster. Then I play one copy of Alba Lunatus, the Abyss Dragon. This is mainly just in here because I like being able to have this as an option for the mirror match. As if you have a really bad hand but your opponent's field is almost nothing but dragons. One thing I like about Alba Lunatus is that it is a contact fusion monster. So you can just set a Fallen of Alabaz and then fuse it with any number of dragons on the field. As Alba Lunatus can attack monsters your opponent controls up to the number of materials used to summon it, which is Alabaz plus one or more dragon monsters. The other thing I like using this for is if I'm low on resources, but I can easily get those resources back by using Lubellion the Searing Dragon. Which I'll get to that when we get to Lubellion. But Alba Lunatus also has the effect that during the end phase, this card's in the graveyard because it was sent to this turn. Then you can add to your hand a normal polymerization or quick play. What was it? Add a polymerization normal spell or fusion normal spell from your deck to your hand. So this can be used to search for branded fusion. Next, I play one copy of Grand Gwenol the Dust Dragon. Grand Gwenol has the effect that when summoned, you can send a level 6 or higher dark monster from your deck or extra deck to the graveyard. And then it also has the effect that, I forget how it works. If a monster is special summoned by your opponent's activated monster effect, except in a damage step, you can banish this card from your field or graveyard, special summon a Dogmatica monster from your deck, or a Despia monster from your extra deck. You can only use each effect of Grand Gwenol the Dust Dragon once per turn. And the monster I usually summon off of Grand Gwenol is actually going to be the last monster in the extra deck, so we'll get to that one when I get to it later too. Next, I play one copy of Lubellion the Searing Dragon. Lubellion has the effect when it's fusion summoned to be able to discard a card for cost, so then fusion summon a level 8 or higher fusion monster from your extra deck by using monsters from your field or graveyard as fusion materials. Which, like I said for Alba Lunatus, is I'll use Fallen of Alabaz and then every dragon I can, or that I want back, to summon this, which usually will include itself when it uses this effect. Because ordinarily when I summon this, though, it'll use itself and Alabaz to summon one copy of Mirror Jade, the Ice Blade Dragon. Next, I play one copy of Protoplant Dracos Tapelia. Dracos Tapelia just requires a fusion monster and a dark monster, so sometimes Searing Dragon will use itself as the fusion and Alabaz as a dark monster, throwing your opponent off. But Dracos Tapelia has the effect that has the continuous effect that it negates the activated effects of monsters on the field with predator counters. And then, once per turn as a quick effect, you can target one monster your opponent controls and place a predator counter on it. Next, I play one copy of Mirror Jade the Iceblade Dragon. You can only control one Mirror Jade the Iceblade Dragon. Mirror Jade also has the effect that you can only use, you can send a Fallen of Alabaz fusion monster from your extra deck to the graveyard for cost to then non-target banish a monster on the field. You can only use the effect of this face-up card once every other turn. I say face-up card because sometimes to make a decent end board, I will use Mirror Jade's effect to banish itself while I go first, so I can then set a card off of Albion's effect, and then during the opponent's turn, I will fuse with a ad libitum. That's either my graveyard or my hand. If it's from graveyard, it's usually using the Branded Banishment, and ad libitum will bring back the Mirror Jade. And then Mirror Jade has one final effect, which is if it leaves the field because of an opponent's card, except being returned to the extra deck, which makes sense. Then during the end phase, you can activate Mirror Jade's effect as soon as it leaves the field, so during the end phase, all your opponent's monsters will be destroyed. Next, I play one copy of the Dragon that Devours the Dogma. This card, again, is also only in here for its graveyard effect, which is during the end phase, if it's sent to the graveyard, you can special summon a Dogmatica monster. So again, this is just another thing that lets you summon Guiding Quem. Let's see. Yeah, it's a Dogmatica or a Tri-Brigade. So you can summon Quem, or you could summon Mercari if you really wanted to, but I don't know why you'd summon Mercari. Next, I play one copy of Albion the Sanctifier Dragon. This card has the main phase quick effect to be able to target two monsters in your graveyard, summon one to your opponent and one to your field. Sanctifier also cannot be used as fusion material. And then its last effect is if this card's in the graveyard, then you can tribute, and there's a monster in the extra monster zones in the middle column on both fields. Then you can tribute those four monsters, summon back Sanctifier Dragon. Which I've never seen that effect actually be used ever. And then the final monster in my extra deck that I usually summon off of Granguinol the Dust Dragon is one copy of Despian Proskinian. Despian Proskinian has the effect that if it destroys a monster in battle, your opponent takes damage equal to the destroyed monster's attack or defense, whichever is higher. But the effect I really liked for it was an effect I used whenever everyone and their mother were using Destiny Hero Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer, which is once per turn as a quick effect, you can target a Fusion, Synchro, Xyz, or Link monster in your opponent's graveyard. Then you can either banish it or summon it to your field. And then you can only use each of that effect of Despian Proskinian once per turn. And that is it for my branded deck profile. If you have any ideas what I can do to improve the deck, any ideas for decks like to see be made in the future, or decks like to see face each other, feel free to comment down below. I always read the comments and try out any suggestions. Thank you for watching.